picture this. It's just a regular evening. Someone sits down at their computer, maybe grabs a coffee, starts playing around with some code.
Seems pretty ordinary, right? Happens all the time.
Exactly. But one night like that, back in 2009, this programmer in Stockholm, Markus Persson, as people know him online, he boots up his computer.
And he has absolutely no idea what's about to happen, that this little project is going to, explode.
Right. So today, we're doing a deep dive into how Minecraft came to be. We're looking at the journey from this personal coding experiment to this absolute giant in the gaming world.
It's a fascinating story of how something small, something personal can just catch fire. It really shows you the unpredictable nature of creativity, I think.
Okay, so let's start with Notch himself. He's a programmer. He likes making games in his spare time. But these weren't long-term commitments, were they?
No, not really. He had this habit, apparently, of starting game projects and then just abandoning them. Moving on to the next idea. So, no grand plan for Minecraft from day one.
More like throwing spaghetti at the wall, seeing what sticks.
Kind of, yeah. And the very first iteration wasn't even close to the Minecraft we know. It was called RubyDung.
RubyDung.
And the whole concept was this sort of fantasy group manager.
Yeah.
You wouldn't actually control the heroes directly.
Oh, interesting. So what, you just manage them?
Yeah, you'd manage their gear, their levels, send them off on quests you got from town, almost like a fantasy football team manager, but with adventurers, a very detached view.
So, technically, how did he even start building that?
Well, he started with the basics, the visuals. He made a texture atlas, that one big image file with all the little textures packed into it.
Right, standard stuff.
And initially, it just had two textures, grass and cobblestone. That's it.
Wow, that's basic.
Totally. And he used those to generate a simple landscape, put some trees in. So even in this completely different game idea, you can kind of see the visual seeds of what would become Minecraft.
Okay, this is where it gets wild, though. He has this top-down manager idea, but then he thinks, maybe I should see what the heroes see. Tries a first-person view.
Exactly. He experimented with putting the player right into the hero's perspective for the quests, and he hated it. He thought it looked terrible, pixelated, blurry, just not right for RubyDung.
So he scrapped it.
He scrapped the idea for RubyDung, yeah. But in doing that, in building that failed first-person test, he'd accidentally created the very first, very rough prototype of Minecraft.
No way. So a complete accident. Born from frustration.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
A classic case of a failure leading to something completely unexpected and world-changing.
That's incredible. But all this was happening in his spare time, right? He had a day job.
He did. And this is important context. He was working at Midas Player.
Wait, the company that later made Candy Crush?
The very same. But back then, they were apparently not supportive of his game-making hobby at all.
Really? Why not?
Saw it as a conflict of interest. Basically told him he needed to stop working on his own games.
Ouch. So what did he do?
He quit. He chose his passion projects over the stable job, which, looking back from a company that hit it big with Candy Crush, maybe they missed something there.
Yeah, that's quite a statement. A big leap of faith to quit like that.
Yeah.
Did he find something else quickly?
He did, thankfully. He got a job at a software company called Gelbum. They made software for, digital photo albums.
Okay.
And crucially, the CEO there, a guy named Carl Manna, was the complete opposite. He knew about Notch's hobby and actually encouraged it.
That makes a huge difference. A supportive environment.
Absolutely vital, even though RubyDung, or what was left of it, was still kind of sitting on the shelf at this point and needed another spark.
And that spark came from another game. Infiniminer.
Yes, Infiniminer. That was the catalyst.
Right.
It was this multiplayer game about mining minerals, and you could use the blocks you mine to build stuff, often to block the other team.
So competitive mining and building.
That was the idea. But what happened was, players found the building part way more fun than the actual competitive mining. They just started building cool things for the sake of it.
Huh. Players making their own fun.
Exactly. But Infiniminer had development problems. The creator eventually abandoned it, made the code open source.
And Notch played it.
He played it and just had this epiphany. He saw the potential, that core loop of digging and building, and immediately thought, I can do this, but better. I can take this core idea and really run with it.
Okay, so that's the moment. He sees Infinimeter, connects it back to his own abandoned first-person prototype.
Right. He went back to that Ruby Dung code, reused those grass and cobblestone textures he'd already made.
Smart. Saves time.
Definitely. And he spent a whole weekend just reworking the code, the art style, everything based on this new Infinimeter-inspired vision.
Had the result.
So the result was a working prototype he called Cave Game.
Cave Game.
Okay, we're getting closer.
This is the real shift. From managing heroes to directly interacting with this blocky world, hands-on creation. So Cave Game exists. How does it become Minecraft and get out into the world?
He knew he needed feedback, so he went to this online forum for indie game developers called TIG Source. Really active community there.
Smart move. Get eyes on it early.
Totally. He shared what he was doing, and the community jumped right in. They even helped with the name. Someone suggested Minecraft. Order of the Stone.
Oh, I remember hearing that subtitle.
Yeah, referencing the mining and the crafting.
Okay.
He eventually just dropped the Order of the Stone part, kept Minecraft. But that forum, that was ground zero for early testing and ideas.
So the community was baked in from the absolute start. When did he first share something people could actually play?
May 17th, 2009, he posted the first playable link.
And the reaction?
Instant and positive. People loved the exploration, they saw the Infinimeter connection, but also saw this was something more.
And they started building stuff right away.
Oh, yeah. And crucially, they started taking screenshots and sharing them. That sharing aspect, showing off what you built, became huge, almost unexpectedly.
So the players themselves started defining how the game was experienced.
Yeah.
And they were giving feedback, too. Suggesting things.
Constantly. It was this amazing feedback loop. Notch was blogging almost daily about what he was working on, implementing suggestions. He even laid out plans for different modes early on: creative, survival, team survival, fortress mode, all based on that community interaction.
That's pretty cool. But it must have had limitations early on. Big missing pieces.
Oh, absolutely. 2 huge ones. No saving your world.
Oof. That's rough. Build something amazing and poof.
Yep. And no multiplayer yet either. People were desperate to build together, but it wasn't there.
Why not? Was it just hard to implement?
It was complex, technically. And Notch himself admitted later he sometimes got distracted adding, fun features like adding water physics instead of tackling the big tricky stuff like saving and multiplayer.
Huh. The classic developer trap. Shiny new feature versus foundational plumbing.
Exactly. But eventually he did tackle multiplayer.
That must have been a big deal for the players. How did that roll out?
It took a lot of time and effort. He blogged about the struggles, the different approaches he tried. He ended up with a downloadable server people could run.
Okay, so you had to host it yourself.
Yeah, which brought up some security worries initially, but it worked. Basic connection, disconnection, streaming the map data. It was a massive step forward, even if it was pretty rudimentary at first.
And all this time, the player base is just growing and growing. This couldn't stay just a hobby forever, right?
No way. He started seeing the potential, realizing, hey, this is more than just a side project, maybe. Maybe people would pay for this.
Which leads to the decision to sell it, even in alpha.
Exactly. He decided to put a price on the alpha version, which was pretty bold back then.
How so?
Well, the trend for indie games in the late 2000s was often freeware, maybe with ads. Charging for an unfinished alpha game, that wasn't the norm.
Going against the grain. Did he have a specific pricing strategy?
Yeah, and it was clever. He rewarded the early players. The price was lower the earlier you bought in.
Oh, nice. So it encouraged people to jump in early.
Yeah.
And gave value to those first testers.
Precisely. And despite people thinking, who's going to pay for an unfinished indie game?
Yeah.
The sales just flooded in.
Really? Immediately?
Almost instantly. So much so that his personal PayPal account got frozen. They thought the activity was suspicious.
Wow. That's a good problem to have, I guess.
Definitely a sign he was onto something huge. And that income allowed him to drop down to part-time work at Jalbum.
Freeing up more time for Minecraft.
Exactly. More time to iterate, add features based on feedback, fix bugs, just constantly refining it with the community.
And this is also when the sound and music came in, right? That iconic soundtrack.
Yeah, around this time he connected with Daniel Rosenfeld, who you probably know as C418.
C418, of course. The music is so essential.
Totally. He created those unforgettable sound effects and that atmospheric music that just is Minecraft for so many people.
So that game's bigger, more polished, selling like crazy. He eventually had to go full-time, right?
Yeah.
And needed more structure.
Yeah. By 2010, the sales were enough for him to quit Album completely. But managing this exploding thing, that wasn't really his strength or interest.
He needed help on the business side.
Right. So he brought in Jacob Porser, who he knew from Midas Player.
Oh, his old colleague.
And Carl Manna, his supportive CEO from Gelbum.
Smart move, bringing in the guy who encouraged him.
Definitely. And the three of them formed Mojang, a proper company to support Minecraft. So it went from just Notch to this small, dedicated team.
And with Mojang established, the game just kept growing, attracting even bigger attention.
Oh, yeah. By August 2010, it was big enough that Valve noticed.
Valve? Like Half-Life, Steam, Valve?
That Valve. They invited Notch out to their headquarters in Bellevue, Washington.
Wow. What happened there?
They apparently offered him a job.
A job at Valve. Did he take it?
Nope. He turned them down. He wanted to stay focused on Minecraft and Mojang.
That takes some serious conviction. Turning down Valve.
It really does. But interestingly, while he was out there for the Valve visit, he put out a forum post just like, hey, any Minecraft fans want to meet up in a park?
Seriously, just a casual park meetup.
Yeah. About 50 people showed up. And that little impromptu gathering, that's now seen as the very first unofficial Minecraft con.
Huh. From 50 people in a park to,
Yeah.
well, what Minecon became later.
Exactly. It apparently really inspired the Mojang guys to think bigger about community events.
So the game is huge, selling hundreds of thousands of copies. But it's still technically in beta.
For quite a while, yeah. End of 2010, it had sold something like 700,000 copies, still in beta, which is kind of nuts.
Definitely nuts. So they decided they needed like an official launch, a version 1.0 moment.
They did. They started planning a big official launch event to mark the game finally coming out of beta.
And that became Minecon 2011. Was it as big as the later ones?
It was massive for the time. Held in Las Vegas, sold out completely. About 4,500 people flew in from everywhere.
4,500. That's way more than 50 in a park.
Just a bit. And they made it a real spectacle. They even had deadmau 5 doing a DJ set.
deadmau 5. At a Minecraft convention. That's unexpected.
Right. And the grand finale, the actual launch moment in November 2011, was Notch on stage, dramatically pulling this giant blocky lever to officially release the game.
That's pretty epic. So game officially launched, development done.
Oh, not at all. The Mojang team kept working on it, adding stuff, fixing things. That commitment to updates continued.
What about Notch? He pulled the lever, the game was out. What was next for him?
Well, for him, it was kind of an endpoint, personally. He'd been doing this intensely for years under a huge spotlight. He wanted to get back to just coding. Smaller projects, less pressure.
So he stepped back from leading Minecraft development.
Yeah, really quickly, actually. Just 2 weeks after that big 1.0 launch event, he announced he was stepping down as lead developer.
2 weeks? Wow. Who took over?
Jens Bergensten, Jeb, another key developer at Mojang.
Okay. So Notch passes the torch, tries to move on to other things.
Yeah.
But that's easier said than done when you've created Minecraft, right?
Exactly. He found out pretty quickly you can't just switch off being the Minecraft guy. He was still getting bombarded with bug reports, complaints, feature requests.
Even though he wasn't in charge anymore?
Yep. People still saw him as the face, the creator. He was stuck with the public perception, which sounds incredibly frustrating.
I can imagine. And that frustration boiled over eventually, didn't it? Something about server rules.
Yeah, the pay-to-win server issue. As Minecraft got huge, lots of independent servers popped up.
Right, multiplayer servers run by fans.
But some started letting players pay real money for advantages in the game, which was against the rules, the EULA.
Not cool. Breaks the game balance.
Totally. So Mojang started cracking down on those servers, but a lot of the backlash, the anger from server owners and players, got directed straight at Notch.
Ugh. Even though he wasn't making those decisions.
Right. And that seemed to be the breaking point for him, all that negativity for trying to enforce the rules.
And that leads to the tweet, the one that changed everything for Mojang.
It does. June 17th, 2014. He just puts out this tweet saying, basically, anyone want to buy my share of Mojang so I can move on with my life? Getting hate for trying to do the right thing isn't my gig.
Just put it out there on Twitter.
Very raw, very public expression of being completely fed up.
And the reaction must have been insane.
Instantaneous.
Yeah.
Carl Manna, the CEO, apparently started getting calls the very next day.
From who? Small companies.
No, the big guns. EA, Activision, Microsoft.
Yeah.
All suddenly very interested in buying Mojang.
Wow. So that tweet basically put a for sale sign on the company. Did Notch really mean it?
According to the story, after thinking about it, yeah, he realized he was serious. He wanted out.
And Microsoft ended up being the buyer. For how much again?
An absolutely staggering amount. $2.5 billion.
Billion with a B.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The deal was done. Microsoft bought Mojang. As part of it, Notch, Carl Manna, and Jacob Porser, the founders, would leave the company.
But the Mojang team, the developers, they stayed?
They stayed. Microsoft kept the team to keep developing Minecraft. And Markus Persson, Notch, became a billionaire overnight.
It really does sound like the ultimate fairy tale ending for a passion project. Indie developer makes game, becomes billionaire.
On the surface, yes. The ultimate success story. But the story doesn't quite end there, and it gets complicated.
Right. Our source material points this out. There were controversies after the sale, involving Persson himself.
Yes. Starting around 2017, he posted some things on Twitter that were, well, widely seen as racist and homophobic, really problematic stuff.
Oof, that's not good. How did Microsoft react?
They distanced themselves pretty significantly. They removed references to him, like his name, from the game itself in updates.
Scrubbed him from his own creation.
Effectively, yeah. And they pointedly did not invite him to the big 10th anniversary celebration for Minecraft. It created this really awkward, difficult situation.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How do you separate the creation from the creator when the creator says things that seem totally against the spirit of the creation?
Exactly. Minecraft is this incredibly open, creative, collaborative world. People from all over connect in it. And then you have the creator expressing these exclusionary views. It's jarring.
There's a tension there that's hard to resolve.
For sure. And the source we looked at raises an interesting parallel. It asks, when do you enjoy Minecraft the most? Is it that initial phase, the spark of creating something new in a blank world?
Or is it later, when you've built up this huge established empire with tons of resources?
Right, and it kind of compares that to Persson's life stages, the initial creative burst versus the later stage of immense wealth and these controversies. Where does the real value lie? It's something to chew on.
Definitely something to think about. What an incredible, complex story. From just one guy coding one evening
to a global phenomenon, a multi-billion-dollar sale, and a legacy that's, well, still being debated and evolving.
It really shows you the power of just one idea, one person's drive, but also how complicated things can get down the line.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that behind these massive games and digital worlds, there are very human, sometimes messy stories.
Well, this deep dive has certainly given us a lot to consider about Minecraft's origins. Of course, there's always more to explore: the history of indie games, the role of online communities.
The whole complex relationship between creators and the things they make, it goes deep.
Indeed. But for now, thank you for joining us on this exploration into how Minecraft was made.